psychiatrist. Well, I'm going to school for psychology. It has a lot of applications. I was telling my ex about it and all my YouTube ideas and all the things I'm trying to do with YouTube. She's like, "Are you going to school to be an influencer?" And I was like, "Of course not. Of course not. I'm not going to do a shit ton of editing in this video. I'm going to keep the retention tricks to a low." When I first started this page, I had no plan whatsoever at all. It was just random inspiration. I was listening to a bunch of podcasts at the time, really trying to figure out how to fix my life. And I stumbled upon Mark Manson and the Know Thyself podcast with, I don't remember his name, and when I do remember his name, I say it incorrectly. It was more like what you would call an intuitive leap. I had no idea where it was going or why. As I've watched some more content, though, I've learned more and more about how to create content, how to really reach people, how to make content more valuable to other people, which I guess that's like, really my main goal is to reach other people and to help them, not just to complain about my life, which a fellow content creator gave me their honest opinion and told me that's what they felt like my content felt like, which I'm not offended by that. And in fact, I try to lean away from that. So I really appreciate that input. In fact, this isn't at all knocking content like that, where, people will sit there and speak real slow with you and take a drink of coffee in front of you. And leaving those nasty ass swallowing sounds and coughs and the clearings, and won't edit those out, which I do that. I did that. That's authentic, I guess. But I decided I already have another page. I could put that kind of content on there. If you want to see me complain a lot, you can follow my other page, which doesn't have any content like that. Yeah, it's actually a tarot page right now. But I guess that will be the page where I post more emotional content. The rest of this video, well, this is just pretty much the intro to the video. But what this video will be actually about is really advice to anyone who aspires to be a new creator, how not to burn out, and what my new content strategy is. So this will kind of be like my newsletter for my 12 real fans out there. Really like mine. To be honest, nobody really likes your content. Your content's horrible. That's why we're doing all this work. And yeah, we're about to get into all the work I'm doing to be a better content creator. And like I said, I'm not going to do a bunch of edits on this video. So let's get into it real fast. I'm not quitting YouTube, but my experimental phase is over. And I feel like coming into 2026, YouTube is changing a lot. It's getting way more popular on TV. What people are looking for is changing in YouTube. I feel like the worst advice that people give you is to just be authentic. I've been doing that for a while. Maybe, and Mr. B says this really well. Unless you're like incredibly attractive or like just naturally have like a really amazing personality, just being yourself isn't going to work for you. So in that regard, I feel like everyone should have a content strategy. And I guess what I mean by my experimental phase is over. I guess my first experimental phase is over. Because I guess you always, as an artist, you're always experimenting with what works. Something different could work better next week. You never know. Anyway, so now I have a content strategy. I have watched enough YouTubers to have some idea of how to actually deliver content. And I'm actually on the subject of the beginning of the video. A lot of the classes that I'm taking, in fact, do help me be a better communicator, and that in turn helps me be a better YouTuber. So, and we're about to get into the pillars of my page, but I feel like my number one strategy, or my number one advice to anyone starting a page is to have a strategy in place and don't just wing it. And I also don't think you should niche down in the beginning. I think you should, keep doing a bunch of stuff, see what works, what kind of metadata you can get. And I don't have a degree in YouTube or anything, but I've watched a lot of YouTube, specifically a lot of YouTube advice givers. And I will tell you that when you're first starting off, you're not going to get a lot of views. And even if you do get a lot of views, you're going to have to get your views over a certain amount before you're going to have to get your subscribers to watch a certain amount before it will even push your videos to new people. But once you start to collect that kind of data, you start to see what kind of works and what doesn't work. And also, you know what works and what doesn't work from your own intuitive, knowledge from watching YouTube. If you watch YouTube, I'm assuming you watch YouTube if you're watching this right now, right? So yeah, I definitely feel like you need to have some kind of strategy in place for why you want to create, or the style of content you want to create. Not necessarily niching down, but maybe categorying down, avataring down to a specific person you're wanting to reach. And so one of the key pillars of my content, I decided I am going to school to be a psychiatrist. So to me, that binds me to the same kinds of ethics that a psychiatrist is bound to. And therefore, from the future, from now on this channel, I really want to not just complain about my feelings, which, like I said, there's a place for that, and I believe I'll maybe still create that kind of content, but just share it onto my other channel. Because my life does suck, and I think that's very important part of what my journey is, and how I'm trying to, I guess, who I'm trying to connect with are people who understand that kind of struggle. So maybe if you're the person who thinks I'm just complaining about my life, obviously you're not my target audience anyway, but I do want to complain less. But it's like, I do have real issues. I live in this tiny room, for example, right now, just to give you an idea of how balanced my perspective is. I live in a tiny room, and my neighbor, I'm not sure exactly what his situation is, but they're trying to kick him out, and he had like a refrigerator full of rotten food that they unplugged. And so now I am smelling that continuously, which sucks. But I also have this, which I think the thumbnail is going to be this. So. Pretty expensive setup. It's taken a while to put all that together, actually. It's taken a lot of hope, effort, patience, and I don't feel like I'm really even at the point of, I'm trying to fix my camera angle back. I'm not really at the point, I feel like, where a level of creator to where I should own this thing yet, but I feel like it's a level of commitment to the craft itself. And that's kind of how I'm looking at it. This filter is a symbol of my commitment, and to kind of like match that energy, I am going to take a little more time on the content I create on this page and try to have more scientific sources. And so I'm going to take more time. I'm going to change my content schedule also. I'm going to start posting every 2 weeks after this. And I'm going to start posting on Fridays. That way my content kind of comes out over the weekend instead of Monday. But yeah, I will focus heavily on what will be the pillars for the ideas that I am trying to grow into my business and my coaching program that I am trying to create, which I will break down all those pillars in what will be the full body of the content of this page. So I'm not gonna try to get into that in this page, but mainly, mental health, productivity, and spirituality is a part of my personal life, and whether or not that, I feel like most of my core audience will resonate with spiritual content, whether or not they're spiritual or not themselves. But my primary focus will be science, even as it relates to spirituality and psychology. And, even when it is spirituality, I still feel like that is a kind of science that requires sources if I'm not just talking about my own personal ideology based on nothing. And even if I am talking about my own personal ideology and it is based on something, taking the time to source that information, because the most important thing with me when it came to becoming a content creator in the first place was not being someone who added to the misinformation problem when it comes to psychology and pop psychology, and because a lot of people learn these terms and misuse them and don't understand them fully, and then they'll be influencers and they'll get on here and they'll be like, yeah, this is what a narcissist is like, and then they have a whole platform where hundreds of thousands of people will hear them, and that will become the knowledge when really that knowledge was unchecked. I don't want my page will not be the source of that kind of misinformation. So, and if it does, I am the kind of person you can hold me accountable. If anything I ever say on this page is wrong or crazy, false, and you've got the science to back it up, I'm going to be open to that forever. I decided. So yeah, basically, I am changing the format of the page, which you will see in the next video, which will be out in 2 weeks from now. And it will be more of a science forward, fact forward page. I will, of course, put a lot of personal stuff in there, because see, nowadays you can't just make content without putting a lot of personal stuff in it, because AI, well, me personally, I will always put personal stories in my content, because AI sucks, and AI can't fake having a real life. Anyway, I don't know how long this video is. It's not even really supposed to be a video. In fact, it's kind of like a video about not having a video, and really it's been a lot of energy, and I'll kind of rant here at the end. It's been a lot of energy, kind of like school is a lot of energy, but the things I'm putting into the back end of the YouTube page, not just this light, but the mental energy of trying to reformat my page and rewrite new, I haven't even had a strategy really in place until now. So to go from having absolutely no strategy to now I have a full strategy and a script template that I am trying to flesh out, and it's a lot on the back end to also be making a video at the same time and trying to make an invisible deadline to keep consistency with the YouTube algorithm and all that bullshit. But still actually, I'm making a video, so take that, Benbridge scholars. Anyway, that's all I've got. I'm late and it's tired. I'm late. Apparently, I'm pregnant. You know whose kid it is. It's yours, Daniel. And not weird Daniel. You're gross and stupid. My husband Daniel. Anyway, and that's a joke. I'm not gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Very funny. Well, I guess that's not funny. Saying that something's funny is not funny, maybe. Anyway, this is the end of the video. Hopefully you've clicked off already. Anyway, I love you. Yes, I love you. And stay mindful.